Can everyone see? Ready to go?
Yep.
All right, so welcome to Internship Search Strategy Part. In this session, we're going to talk about searching and networking and how finding an internship is really a two-prong approach. You know, it's a lot of research, and then on top of that, networking and finding a connection within the company. So we're going to touch on some strategies for you guys for both parts of that. Idealist for nonprofits, and then a couple others we're just going to touch on.
Yeah, and you might need to go back. I'm not sure whether it was just mine or everyone's, but you froze.
Oh, sorry. So am I still good?
You're good.
Okay.
I hear you now, but I didn't catch most of your intro, Dan.
Oh, go all the way back.
I think so, yeah. I think you've been freezing.
Okay, let's try it again. So, internship strategy, search strategy, part 2. We're going to cover searching and networking. We're going to talk about a lot of the different platforms that you can use on your search strategy, and then also the networking proponent. So, two-prong approach, where to find different connections within these companies and where to
I'm going to give Dan a quick call, everyone, and tell him to just use his phone.
the opportunities actually right now.
Dan, we missed it again. Might not be a bad idea for you to audio in.
Okay. All right, am I good?
You're good for now, yeah.
Okay, so covering Handshake, the university platform, LinkedIn, social media, Idealist for nonprofits, and then we'll touch up, just mention a couple more that you can do on your own research. And then we'll cover networking, LinkedIn, email networking, direct contact, and then the MSB network. So first I want to ask everyone, how's it going? Hopefully you're more in the green than you are in the pink or red. If you are in the red, please contact me as soon as possible so we can kind of remedy that. We're here to help. So if you feel lost or anything, happy to get on a call or Zoom and we can discuss that. Hopefully you're maybe in the light green. If you're in the very green, that's great. Maybe you already have an internship and just let us know. So does anybody want to share any experiences that they're having right now or any questions from last week's session? Cool.
So
yeah.
I wasn't here last week, but like, what is the percentage of students going into this program that already have an internship?
I would say under 10%.
Thank you.
And I think let's expand on that just for a second. This is Stu. That a lot of internships or companies aren't really getting geared up until August, September for internships. So it's not unusual. I think the key now is to start making those contacts and be on their radar screen.
Yeah, that's correct, Stu. Because right now we're in summer internship time.
Yeah.
And transitioning into fall internship time. So some people may already have a summer internship that they're pushing further into the fall, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But right now, no one has their quote unquote starting in the fall internship.
Right. So don't feel like you're behind, because it just takes that time as we approach the academic year to work through those.
And you're also not expected to have an internship by orientation. So please don't be afraid if you're coming into orientation without one that you're alone. There's no expectation of that.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody who chimed in as well. I appreciate that.
I also have a question. This is Chris. I think I'm just sort of having trouble, to be honest, to motivate myself to apply to internships, because I'm worried that I'll be like looking for the wrong one, because I'm just a huge worrier, the wrong type, and I don't want to be like putting myself out there if I don't ultimately want to be in that industry.
That's a great question, and I can really empathize with you there. I'm kind of at that same mindset, and something that I learned a couple years back that was really helpful is that you're in control and you can apply to these opportunities and take it as far as you want. And if it ends up not being a great fit or you're not interested anymore, then you have the chance to say no. But first, I would say apply and get to know the company, get to know really what the internship is about before you limit yourself. So at least put yourself out there, talk to a recruiter and see what really is the job duties, because sometimes the job description may be an older job description that they haven't updated, or they just kind of threw a bunch of job duties on the page, and you'll learn what they're really looking for in the interview. So I would say apply. Doesn't hurt to interview, because you're going to get interview skills anyway. You're going to get experience there. So it doesn't hurt to put yourself out there. And if it's not a fit, or somewhere in the process you realize I would not like to do this at all, you can politely say, thank you for the opportunity. After learning more about this opportunity, I'm not going to move forward in the process. And there's no feelings hurt there.
Yeah. And Chris, perfection is the enemy of good. And you may, and I think Dan made a really good point. You may find out after learning about the job, I'm not a good fit for this. Let me invite you then to tell the employer, but I bet one of my other 40 teammates would be. Would you mind if I contacted them or contacted our program and made this available to another student? And typically they would say yes. And remember, this internship is not, in all likelihood, your career. All right, it's just to get some experience. It's to help you with time management. So try to find something that would be interesting to you. Some students just go completely afar from what their comfort zone is and say, hey, I'm going to try something very different. And that's fine too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I would say, actually, going back on the percentage topic, very few percent of our students take a full-time job from their internship. Most students get an internship or 2 internships throughout the year, get a lot of experience, learn about what they want and what they don't want, and then sometimes do a complete 180 and get a totally different full-time job, but they had those transferable skills that we talked about in the last session. So just put yourself out there. You are not tied down to anything throughout this year. It's definitely a learning experience, and you're here to learn. And any hiring manager knows that with internships. So you're not gonna be there for 5 years miserable. It's just
Right.
An opportunity to gain skills. Anyone else? All right, so I'm going to assume that no one is in the red. And if you are, you can email me separately and we can chat. All right, so coronavirus, COVID-19, it's a real thing that we're going through. And that being said, there are some resources for you online to kind of decipher who's hiring, what industries are hot right now. And so I have these shared, and we'll share this with you through email, and you can kind of click through each of them. This is a really great research opportunity. The top one, Candor, is a list of over 1,000 companies, and it's divided into hiring freeze, laying off. So you can really get a feel for the market right now. And I will say there are a lot of companies that are hiring. So that will give you some help when you're looking for internships. So going through that big Excel, seeing the companies that are hiring, going on their website and searching if they have an internship program. DC Tech People, that's also a great resource. And then the other ones are more industry reports. So you can get a feel for what industries are hiring, like say Peloton, those types of things. There's some companies that are thriving right now. Netflix, right? I feel like we've all finished Netflix in the past like 2 months, and we're waiting for more and more content. So yeah, there are companies that are doing well, and they need help. So now we are going to pass it over to Brett. First, let me just stop sharing. And Brett is going to chat about Handshake.
Yeah, let me just say hi to everyone. It's good to see all of you. So my name is Brett LaPrade, and I'm the Employer Relations Manager for the Bush School. So in my role, I work mostly with undergraduates, but of course there's a lot of overlap between companies looking for just good talent, and especially on the internship front. So I'm here as another resource for you. If you need any help searching for anything or contacts or connections, I work with Dan and Stu and Mary Kate to kind of facilitate some of those. So yeah, I'll talk to you a little bit today about Handshake, which is our university career job posting one-stop shop. So it's more than just a job platform, although it is certainly that. So I'll talk to you a little bit about what it looks like to search for internships on that now. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. So if you're looking to get into Handshake for the first time, all of you, if you've got your Catholic University online login credentials, you have access to Handshake now. So to get there, you can see up here in my browser, it's a really easy, at least, it's easy for me to say because I work on it every day, but it's an easy URL to remember. And you can also get to it from the business.catholic.edu website. You can click through it from there. You can click on the Handshake logo, but cua.joinhandshake.com will take you to a general page. And if you go through the university page, as I just mentioned, you'll get to this landing page. So it's easy enough to log in. You see here that you can click in with your Cardinal login. I have a stale request because I was just logged in, so let me refresh the page. So it'll take you to this site, and if you haven't logged in yet to your CUA credentials, this is a preview of coming attractions. You will do this many, many times per day for many, many different systems in the university. But it's good because all of them use the same credentials, same password and everything. So if I log in, it'll take me to the Handshake homepage. If it's your first time logging in, it will not take you to this page. What it will do is it will kick you to something that looks like this, and it will immediately have you fill out your career interests. I think this is a really important thing for every single student to do across the board in the university, because Handshake has a really powerful algorithm behind it that will curate internship and job opportunities for you based on the things you put into this survey. So you can start off, as all of you are beginning to enter the MSB program, you're all looking for internships. So that'll automatically take out all the full-time jobs, all the graduate fellowship opportunities, so that your inbox doesn't get bombarded with those. You can tell Handshake how you want it to help you, whatever the things that you're interested in doing. And it's basically just a career interest survey. This is really helpful for you, as I mentioned, for getting the right kind of interests and career paths that you want to do in Handshake to optimize its performance for you. It's also helpful for us as professional staff members in career development, because we can go in and we can see what you've selected, and we can kind of also work on the curation side of things, of putting you in contact with people that are doing those kinds of things in our alumni network or employers we worked with in the past. So this is a really important first step for using Handshake well. And I encourage you to spend the 4 or 5 minutes it takes to do this. So as you go down, you can type in different kinds of roles you're interested in. There was a point in my life where I was interested in being a history professor. I'm still interested in that somewhat, so I leave it there just to see what Handshake has in store for me. You can put the cities that you're interested in living, and I'll tell you more about how that works when we actually get into looking at the internships on Handshake. But then this is where kind of the bread and butter of what Handshake does is, and that it's as simple as going through and clicking on any kind of thing that interests you. So you can see for mine, I'm interested in higher education. I'm interested in international affairs peripherally. I'm interested mostly in the publishing side of journalism, media, and publishing. I've done nonprofit and religious work in my background, so I've got those checked. So Handshake will occasionally send me emails with updates for those different types of things. But as I'll show you on that homepage when I first log into Handshake, it will automatically populate with those types of positions first. So I see those and know what's going on. And then finally down here, you can select the kind of job functions that you're interested in. So this specifies even more the type of industry. So Handshake divides different opportunities into the industry and into the role that they have. So for example, if you're interested in marketing, you can go in at least two different ways, but I'll use these two as an illustration. You can go into agency marketing, which is just a marketing firm that's all they do, and they take on clients to develop the marketing campaigns for them. Or the other side of marketing, you can go and you can work for a specific company and you can run their marketing department or work in their marketing department. So if you're interested in the advertising side of things, you could check this box and it will show you all the different types of roles that fit into advertising. So that could be on the marketing side or the in-house side. Whereas up here, you're selecting the specific type of industry you're interested in. So that's the difference there. It's kind of splitting hairs, but it can also be really powerful for making sure you're getting the kinds of opportunities that you want. And then finally, for all of you, you'll be graduating, Lord willing, in 2021. So you would select that as your graduation date, and then you just click select Save My Career Interests. It's really as easy as that. That's the absolute first thing you have to do on Handshake. It shouldn't take you more than 5 minutes to do. It's your own personal career assessment. It can also help you be thinking critically about the kinds of things that you're interested in. So I know we already had a question about what about if I get into an internship I don't really like? Well, this can help you kind of think about the kinds of things that you would like to do. Okay, so let's say you've completed that career interest survey and you're kicked into Handshake for the first time. This is what your homepage is going to look like. So you can see here they have these nice buttons that get you to the kind of really important things that Handshake does for you right from the get-go. So for the purposes of this webinar, we're mostly interested in this Jobs tab, which you can see here on this button. It's also always going to be at the top of your screen. So if I scroll down, it's going to stay up here. The jobs, events, Q&A, and students are the most powerful things in Handshake. So that's why they're always going to be at the top of your screen. And as I scroll down, you can see it's filling in these roles that I was telling you about from my career interests. So all of these are based on the types of things that I said that I was interested in, or from when I show you when you get into uploading your resume and filling out your Handshake profile, the types of things that are in there. So this dynamic test prep reading and writing instructor, I was a tutor at one point in my life, so that makes sense that's popped up there. I work pretty closely with our sales program and have that listed on one of my things in my resume that's in Handshake, so that's why sales representative is popping up here. Financial advisor, do lots of stuff with our Wall Street group and do some work with our wealth management folks to get opportunities for students. So you can see how it auto-populates there. If I want to see more, I just click see more jobs and it's going to fill this entire website with opportunities that Handshake thinks that I could be a good fit for. So I'll let you explore that. I think that you should go do that now if you're still searching for an internship, because it's going to really narrow it down for you in a lot of good ways. So once you've done that and you've kind of looked at the home page, up here in this the top right-hand corner, I have my image there. Yours will have your initials because you shouldn't have an image in there yet because you haven't set up your profile. And that's the next thing that you should do on Handshake. So if you click on my profile, it's going to take you to something that looks a lot like we're all familiar with social media, with LinkedIn, something that looks a lot like that. So it'll also have a tutorial that will walk you through all the steps that you need to do in order to get your profile to 100% completion, which you see here. So some of the steps that are involved are putting a nice professional headshot, updating your My Journey, which is basically a synopsis of who you are, your career interests, why you want to do the things that you want to do, those kinds of things. It's got an option to upload a resume if you've already created one before in the past, and it will auto-populate on your profile, so you don't have to do that really annoying thing if you've ever applied for a job through Indeed, where you upload your resume, and then you also type in your resume after you've just uploaded it. It will handle all of that for you, which I really appreciate. So you can see I've got my education here, all that's filled in. It's got my work and volunteer experiences listed all the way down here. I can put my organizations and extracurriculars. I can list any courses that I've taken, which I've actually heard that recruiters like to see this, especially on a marketing sales side of things. They like to know you have experience there. And then any projects that you've worked on. Again, there will be a tutorial as you're doing this for the first time that will walk you through to make sure you check all these boxes and fill in things like they need to be. But then over here on the side is something that I think you always need to make sure that you click and check. I can check whether my profile is visible to an employer, and 2, I can check whether my interests and whether I'm searching for a job is open to employers. So I haven't updated mine in a long time since I was a graduate student, but right here on this interests tab, I've got my industries, my roles, the cities I'm in, and I haven't put my job interests. But right here you see not looking for a job, but open to opportunities. If I click on the edit pen, I can easily change that to I'm not looking for a job, or maybe I'm actively looking for a job. Recruiters also use Handshake to source candidates, especially college and recent graduates. So if you put on there that you're actively looking for a job, you will get messaged on Handshake. Even me, with the status that I had on there, which was not looking for a job at open opportunities, I get random messages on Handshake from recruiters for things that I'm either really interested in or would have been interested in, or things that I'm not interested in at all, because they're just trying to find as many people that could be open to an opportunity. So you can go through and you can add all those things, but once you do that, it becomes visible to employers. If you have any questions about the way this works, I'm happy to do like a one-on-one workshop with you to get this optimized. Having worked in Handshake for a while, I can tell you some of the things to do and some of the things not to do to make sure that a recruiter sees your profile. But once your profile is 100% complete, you see right here that I've got this nice green check and green text. My profile is visible to employers, students, and alumni across all Handshake universities. So Handshake, kind of miraculously, is only about 5 years old. And in those 5 years, it's at over, oh gosh, it's probably in like 75% of universities at this point. Many employers, all of the big name employers that you can think of are on Handshake and using it to recruit college and graduate level talent. So having your profile to 100% complete unlocks a door for you that probably couldn't have been opened before. So I really encourage you to take advantage of that in Handshake, because it's something super simple, just telling the internet more about yourself, which I'm sure we do way too much of already, something that we're all used to doing. Okay, after you've set up your profile, you can start looking for more of those curated opportunities. So once your profile is set, that home page is going to continue to populate this based on job roles you're interested in page. Once you've got your major and all that information, all that's plugged in directly from the university side of things. You don't have to worry about filling that in. It will tell you more about what other students that are like you are interested in, what they've gone on to do. So you can see I'm doing a PhD in Semitic languages. We can talk about that later if you're interested. But these are what other people apparently have done with a Semitics degree, gone on to basically teach and also be an accountant. I don't know why that would be there. Maybe someone in the past had an accounting degree before they went in to study Arabic. I don't know. It'll tell you more about it'll give you more recommendations based on the activity that you had on Handshake. So what kinds of jobs and internships have you been looking through? It'll track that data and then continue to populate other opportunities similar to those that you may have missed. And then finally, suggested by your career center is an important one. These are ones that anyone working in the Office of Career Development or anyone working for the Center for Academic and Career Success, we can pin these to show up on every single student's or a select group of students' homepage if we think it's something that you should be interested in. So this one is suggested to me by my career center because I posted it, because this is a small business that we started working with that is looking for an intern. So all of you right now, when you log into Handshake for the first time, you will see this posted. This company is looking for someone like you, so you should apply for it once you log on to Handshake if you're interested in marketing, journalism, all those kinds of things. Okay, if you want to actually get into searching, you want to click on this jobs tab either at the top or click on this button here. And this jobs tab has jobs and internships. So I'll show you, if you've ever used any kind of job board like Indeed or Monster, Career Builder, the functionality is very similar to those, but I'll just walk you through it quickly so that you can see it in action. So you're all looking for internships at this point. Right now, you can see that there's 6.1 jobs in Handshake, 6,100 jobs. I'm trying to read it and translate it. 6,100 jobs in Handshake. We don't want all of those because we don't want the full-time jobs. We don't want the graduate fellowships. We just want the internships. So it's simple as clicking on internship, and you can see that it's filtering out. So we've gone from over 6,000 to now just over 1,000. That's great, but we still probably have a problem. If you're going to be interning in the Washington, D.C. metro area, you don't want internships that are located in Los Angeles or Houston or St. Paul. With COVID and the rise of remote work, it's possible, and I'll show you how to filter for that. But for the time being, we want to search for location. So you can click on location here, and you can set your location filters. Since DC is my default city, the one that I've said that I'm looking for in Handshake in my profile, I can click that, and then I can set the distance that I'm willing to go. 50 miles from DC is it could be like 3 hours away, depending on the day. I usually recommend something like 10 to 15 miles. Anything more than that, and you're gonna really not have a fun time commuting.
Hey, Brett? Brett? Uh-oh. Did Brett freeze? Am I frozen?
Brett is frozen for me as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy, technology is not our friend today. Let's give him a minute. Actually, and maybe Dan, you might know the answer to this. When Brett said what he said about the traffic is very true. But in this environment where some internships could be done remotely, should we expand that 10-mile radius, or is there a way to differentiate between remote and physical? Because the Northern Virginia area, Ashburn, Reston and such, a lot of tech companies, a lot of startup companies that you wouldn't want to commute to every day because of the distance, but we have had students do remote internships. How do we deal with that within the Handshake environment?
Yeah, that's a good question, Sue. Sorry, I lost connection there for a second.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, great question. So if I click on the location here, I can add in remote. It looks like they've changed it there. So it's not there anymore. If I go to all filters, I can do, I was just talking with CACS the other day about where they're doing the remote now because they updated Handshake.
Well, you can always come back to the folks with that, but I'm glad to know there is a way to differentiate.
Yeah, there is. When we whenever I'm working with an employer, there's an option when they post a position in Handshake to select that they're open to remote. So if you see down here, this first one that's come up, ACCA membership intern, they're in Arlington, but they're also willing to have a remote intern. So it will say on every single posting whether they're open to remote interns or not.
Okay.
Have a location, and it will say, like right here, remote workers allowed.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah, and by and large, every employer that I've spoken with, I've encouraged to do that, and most employers are on board with posting that because they just recognize the reality of the pandemic, and who knows when go back.
But if the student puts down a 10-mile radius, it's not going to exclude them from, say, Reston, is it?
No, not for a remote opportunity.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, it's a great question. Okay. So we'll stick here on this one. So this is what an actual internship looks like. The posting looks like in Handshake. You'll have the name of the internship, the company that's posted the internship, and then it's got this really nice summary at the top that will give you just a synopsis, really quick snapshot, thumbnail sketch of what the internship is like. So this one's really nice. You can see the application deadline is in the middle of September. You can see that they do allow remote workers. If you need work authorization, so if you're on some certain student visas, which I'm sure Bill and Stu and the International Studies Office can help you out with more, they'll indicate whether they're willing to take on somebody for work authorization or not. If you scroll down some more, you'll get more of the full traditional job description. So this is where they can post everything about it. So you see you've got your summary here. Here's a little brief 3-paragraph thing about the ACCA. And then here's the specific responsibilities, qualifications, and then a contact. This is really, really key in Handshake. Every single posting is supposed to have a contact affiliated with it. If you come across one in Handshake that doesn't, you can reach out to Dan, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Mary, and we can track that down for you. So it's supposed to be a reply. But text me, but they are, sometimes there's a glitch in the thing that sneaks through. Down here is another really powerful part of what Handshake can do, but can also be limiting on what students apply to. So this is both the word of encouragement and word of warning. Employers can select preferences for the students that are looking for internships. So it shows up here in this box. So you see that my GPA has met what they've set as their preference. My school year has met their preference. My work authorization has met their preference, but my major does not meet it. So I meet 3 other 4, which makes me a pretty decent candidate, but the major thing is pretty important for a lot of employers. For you guys as MSB, it's a little bit different, and this is where my encouragement comes from. I encourage students to take the preferences of postings with a grain of salt, because if you're skilled and passionate, whether your major aligns with that or not, a lot of you are coming from liberal arts backgrounds, you're going to come across a lot of these when you're applying for business internships that your major doesn't meet their preference. You can ignore that and apply, because you're in a business program, you're working on those skills, you have a lot to offer as an intern in a lot of these positions. The only time it will really come up is if your GPA doesn't match, because sometimes the most common GPA is a 3.0 in Handshake. So if you're not hitting that 3.0, that's the only time it could be a question. But if you see an opportunity and you're interested in it and it's in Handshake, you should apply. It'll let you apply even if you don't meet the criteria. Okay, then finally, when you're on a posting, at the bottom of the page, you'll see similar jobs to this. So Stu, back to your question, here's an opportunity in New York City, even though we've set our location to within DC. It's remote though, it still pops up here.
Brett,
Really nice way
I'm going to cut your video for a sec because you're coming in very staticky. So hopefully that should give us a little more bandwidth. Hold on one moment. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Last thing I'll say about searching, name any specific thing that you're interested in. So if I'm interested in, we'll stay on marketing. I just type in marketing, and any posting that has marketing either as a job function, a job role, industry, or in the responsibilities in the job description will come up here. So we've got 151 jobs within 10 miles of DC. You can just scroll directly through here, look for all of them, and click on one. The International Economic Development Council is someone that we worked with in the past. They have a communications and marketing intern, and they accept OPT, CPT for any international students that we might have coming that need to think about those things. That checks a lot of boxes. The final thing I'll say about using Handshake is the applying is really simple. You just click this apply button. It'll load this page. If you've loaded your resume to complete your profile, you just click on the resume you've uploaded. If you've got a cover letter in your profile, if you've applied for something else, you can automatically upload it there. But as Mary Kate will tell you, you need to customize it for each position you're applying for. If you're serious about getting that position, you can upload it there. And then if there's any other requirements, like the International Economic Development Council is requiring a writing sample, you can upload it here and you just click submit application. It's as easy as that. Some things in Handshake will take you to an external application page. So let me see if I can find one quickly as we're going through. So that button will show up here, apply externally. If I click that, it will make me upload my resume so that we as career services people, as professional staff, know that you've applied and we can follow up with that employer. Click step 2, external application, and it will take me to the company's specific job board for that. So it's taking me to their Simplicity page, and I can apply directly through there. Okay, I know I've said a lot about Handshake. I think it's an intuitive, simple tool. I'm happy to talk to you more and help you set up your profile because I think it's the most important and powerful part of Handshake. So that's the only thing you take away from it. Set up your profile so that you can get those curated internship opportunities.
Thank you, Brett. That was really great. And just wanted to mention that there was an events tab there on Handshake, and Brett is really great at coordinating different employer events throughout the year. So it may be tailored to undergraduates or open to all students, and you guys are welcome to attend any of those events with a company or an industry that you're really interested in. So if it works in your schedule and you're interested in it, sign up through Handshake and definitely attend one of those events because the ones that he puts on are really, really great and effective.
I have a quick question for Brett, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I was noticing as I was kind of going through a few days ago that since CUA is in control of our handshake profile, or at least certain aspects of it, all of us are supposedly having a 0.0 GPA right now. Is that going to have an effect, especially upon applying to jobs before we even start the program or before, you know, that first semester of grades come in?
Yeah, that shouldn't affect because employers can see that you're a first-year student.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so they'll know that there are no grades associated with it. And if you've got a GPA from like from your undergraduate, you can list that on your profile and make that viewable to employers. There's different levels of privacy settings that I didn't get into, but that's one thing that you can opt in to show to employers. It won't show by default, but you can set it so they can see, like if you had like a 3.8 in undergrad, you might want an employer to see that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Great. Any other questions? All right, so we're going to move forward to what happened here.
Hey, Dan.
Yeah.
Well, while you're moving forward, let me just make a comment. It was kind of interesting to see the example Brent used, the air conditioning something or other association. This is not about your interest in air conditioning, okay? This is about these kind of jobs, like a membership, whatever the title was. Every trade association in the world has that job, completely fungible. If you wanted to be the general manager of the New York Yankees, or maybe not general manager, the marketing or sponsorship sales manager of the Washington Nationals, the baseball team, you are completely fungible with hockey, with football, with college sports, etc. So don't get concerned in an internship about what that particular industry is. You're there to get experience and you're there to put something really good on your resume, okay? So it just occurred to me, that was such a great example that somebody would say, air conditioning, I don't care about air conditioning other than it better work. That would be a really good internship because you're going to learn a lot about how business, about how organizations, about how trade associations work. So be real careful that you don't filter something out of your mind too quickly. Okay?
Yeah, that's a really good point because say that trade association position is working with people and that's your end goal is working with people, whether it's sales or marketing, events. So really great points, Stu. It's all about transferable skills when it comes to these internships.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Dan.
And you might be passionate about air conditioning, so go for it.
Either way, right. Deal.
So we're going to move forward to LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is really where the searching and come together pretty nicely. I would say that Handshake is your number one and LinkedIn would be your 1.5. So these two put together will really set you up for success. So on LinkedIn, you can search jobs, you can search specific companies, and you can search alumni. Undergraduate, so if you didn't go to CUA, you can search that university alumni group or database on LinkedIn. So we're going to go on to LinkedIn here. Can everyone see my LinkedIn? Great. So we're going to go to jobs. And what we're going to do is search marketing intern, Washington, D.C. And on this side, you'll see all different internship opportunities. So summer marketing internship, we still have openings. And you'll see a bunch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. So AARP, you'll see they have a marketing services intern. It has the job description here, summary, responsibilities. And what I'm going to recommend to you, because LinkedIn is kind of a third-party platform, is that whenever you're applying for jobs through LinkedIn, always try to go to the company page. So sometimes LinkedIn will take you to a weird site that's like Resume Builder or something else. Always go to the company website to make sure that that posting is still live. I don't want you to waste your time. Sometimes recruiters leave things up there on LinkedIn for longer than they're searching. So definitely go to the company site and apply through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look through a couple more, and this one has a fall 2020 communications internship. And if you see here connections, I don't have any connections, but there's Catholic University's logo and it says to alumni. So say I really, really want this opportunity. I'm going to go find the opportunity on the company website, or on here, LinkedIn has easy apply. You can do that. It's just your resume and it goes by really quickly, but the success rate is mixed. So definitely try to go to the company page and find the opportunity on their website. But going back to the alumni, after I apply, I'm going to hit this to alumni. So there's 2 alumni, and Selena Donahue, several shared connections with her, and one of them is Catholic University Alumni Association. So that is normally an indicator that she's somewhat involved still with Catholic University. You know, she made the step to connect with the University Alumni Association. So she, out of these 2 alumni, would be my best chance at connecting with. So I can click her profile. I can kind of see what her background is. Okay, she's been there for over 2.5 years. Kind of worked her way up. She's more creative, but she did do communications internships. And so she seems like someone that might be beneficial for me to connect with. And so you can hit connect, and then there's always the opportunity to write a note. And I would say always write a note. Make sure that you make it personal, and I'm going to give you an example of what to write in the note, but I just wanted to show you the function of how to connect and write the note, and how to find an alumni through the job posting. Does that make sense in that way? Cool. So the other route is to go through alumni. So I searched Catholic University of America, and what I'm going to do is they have this alumni button that is one of the greatest resources that LinkedIn has, in my opinion. So it's just a large database of anyone who has created a profile and put Catholic University as their education. So what this is you can kind of search for people and connections and then find a company. So the way I showed you first was through a job posting and then seeing if you had a connection. This way is more from the top down. So I'm looking at Catholic University alumni. I'm going to click Washington, D.C. metro area. I'm interested in that. All right. And then I'm going to go, let's see, where do they work now? So looking down, let's say I am interested in the FDA. So here it will show you every person who works at the FDA who is a Catholic University alumni. And you can kind of click through here and you can start to click their profiles. Like this one is a summer intern at the FDA right now. So she is currently a Bush School student and she's interning there. So that could be a pretty interesting connection to chat with her about what is it like to be an intern at the FDA. You know, I'm looking at that, and could you connect me with the hiring manager or your boss at the FDA? Other people you can kind of find more experienced, a 1985 graduate, and you can reach out to them and say, wow, you know, your experience is really expansive and impressive, and I'd love to learn your career, and what advice would you have for me as I go into my master's program? So those are the two major ways to utilize LinkedIn when it comes to searching for your internship / networking. So the one way is looking for opportunities, applying for them, and then trying to make a connection. And then the other one is to sift through all the alumni and find companies that you're interested in or industries that you're interested in, and start to reach out to them and say, really interested in the work you do. I'm looking for an internship right now. I'm entering the Master's of Science in Business. Your experience. So this is kind of how LinkedIn is the culmination of searching for the opportunity and networking. All right. So where else can you search? You can search Glassdoor. Glassdoor is a very large job posting website. It's not as clean as LinkedIn, and it's nowhere near as clean as Handshake. So Handshake is probably your most clean in the sense that the opportunities that are there are live opportunities. There's a recruiter behind them, and you're probably going to get a response, whether it's, no, we're not going to move forward, or can you interview next week? Glassdoor, sometimes there's, a lot of recruiting companies and different things. So it sometimes gets messy or things get left on. But that being said, you can find a great opportunity on there. Idealist is really good right now if you're looking for a nonprofit internship. And right now, I just went through it this morning, and I'll send you a list of them. But there are a good amount of nonprofit internships open for the fall right now in DC. A lot of them are association-based, mission-based, communication type things, and it looks like they're all open to remote, and they're all hiring. So I will send you that site. It's definitely worth looking into. Indeed, very similar to Glassdoor. It's a large website with lots of job postings, internship postings. So we talked about LinkedIn and networking, and as you'll see through this data, that networking is very, very, very important. So 85% of jobs get filled through networking. That's why you're in this program. You're building your network. That's why we ask for you to have an internship, because it's another way to build your network. You're working with people, you're showing them how hungry you are and how easily you learn new things. So this is all part of the process, and it's never too early to start networking. And then on the other side, it says the top way companies recruit is through employees referring people they know. One of the major ways is because companies pay their employees sometimes if they find a new person and refer them. And it's just, like I mentioned in Glassdoor, sometimes it's just we're now in the age of information, and there's just so much information online that when someone says, hey, I've got this really great student from Catholic University, I think you really like them, the program is really tailored to what we're doing at this company, would you interview them? That makes a recruiter's job easier. So you can see it from their end as well, where there's just so much information, and this is a really great resource. So start networking now. It will pay dividends in the end. So I mentioned that I was going to give examples. So here are the examples for a LinkedIn message. So they give you a limit on how many characters you can send. So LinkedIn messages, especially when you're connecting with them, should be brief, concise, and have some sort of call to action. So here I wrote, hi, Bob. I came across your profile and was really impressed with your experience in healthcare. I'm currently pursuing my master's in business this fall. So giving as much information about why I'm reaching out in this small little tidbit is really important. And then there is that call to action where it's, please hit accept for my connection so that I'll see your profile. I'll be able to get your email address and follow up with you off of LinkedIn. Or sometimes some people are very active on LinkedIn and they'll just message you back and you'll have a really great conversation within Messenger. But the goal, I would say right now, especially this summer, is to get a phone conversation with some of these people that you'd like to connect with. Get on the phone, learn about what they do, learn about their industry. Please, please do not make it transactional. Even if you know that the company they work for is hiring an intern, try not to mention that maybe until the follow-up email after the phone call. The real purpose is to connect with them and learn from them. What challenges are they facing right now in their jobs? So that would be my advice for these outreach conversations. I also have a cold email. So maybe you got an email from a professor, a friend of yours, one of your parents who works with someone that's really influential in marketing. So this is kind of a draft of how to write up that email. Hi, Jane. My name is Daniel, and I'm currently pursuing my master's in business at Catholic University. Upon graduation, I hope to work in marketing, particularly for a mission-based nonprofit. Professor Johnson recommended that I connect with you, given your extensive experience managing email campaigns for the American Red Cross. Might you have time to connect over the phone in the near future so I can learn more about your career and the challenges you are facing in the industry? Best, Daniel. You can also attach your resume to this and say, attaching my resume for your convenience, just so that they have some more going into the conversation. But the email, you can kind of elaborate more. You don't want to be wordy. You want to be very specific in what you're asking for. So I'm asking for a phone call because one of my professors mentioned that she would be a great contact for me in regards to nonprofit marketing.
Dan, do you mind if I add to this?
Yeah,
this
of course.
Excellent example, super short and sweet. You can even go more specific. So say, like at the very end, you could even say over the phone for 15 minutes, like giving some context to it. And then even go as far as saying, like, I'm typically available on these days and times, so that there's not that back and forth over and over of finding the right day and time that works. So if this is your template, feel free to add those little pieces in to make it as easy as possible for them to say, yes, I'm free on this day, talk to you then. But yeah, Dan, this is a great template. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's a really great point, Mary Kate, because some of these people that you're reaching out to are very busy. But if you do give them that pitch where it's just super simple and saying, I'm available next Wednesday and later in the afternoon, or after work at 5 o'clock for 15 minutes, then they'll just say, sometimes you'll even get a response, yes, call me with the phone number. Don't be alarmed that it's not as well crafted as the one you sent, but people are busy or people communicate in different ways, and just that's great, and call them at the time you said you'll call them. So these are two templates for you that you can build upon in the near future when you start to do your outreach. If you do have the email of a recruiter for a company and there's a job posting that is the exception to what I said about making it transactional, if you can say, hello, my name is Daniel. I recently applied for and then insert the job title. And then you can do a little bit of pitch about your experience, why you're interested in it, and attach your resume as well. And let them know that you applied through the portal, like the formal application process as well. So that's the one where you can reach out to them and say, hey, I applied for this. Please consider me. All right, so final slide, get creative and meet the moment. We do face some challenges with the coronavirus and working remote and different companies adjusting, but I would say that every company's now getting creative. They are realizing that this might be for a little longer than they originally anticipated in March, and so they are adjusting. There are more remote opportunities. HR is figuring out people are figuring out how to have interns remote. And things are starting to look good in New York. I know they're looking good in DC. There are people going back to work. My sister works in real estate investment trust in New York, and she's going into the office. So things are starting to look alive, and there are opportunities. But I would say this summer, maybe it's just a little more outreach and specificity in what you want when you reach out to people, and the opportunity will be there.
Dan, that's a great overview of those tools. I've got a question for you and Mary Kate to address to the group. You got a bunch of high achievers here, and when they set their mind to something, they're going to go after it. I find I would recommend you don't sit down and spend 8 hours trying to do this, because it can really wear you down. Mm-hmm. What's a good way to approach this and be disciplined about it and reward yourself? Mary Kate, Dan, can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, that's a really great point. So part of my job as the employer relations position at Catholic University, and Brett can speak to this as well, is outreach. And it's sales, and you're reaching out to people and you're growing the network for the university. And so I've kind of gotten disciplined in sending several messages in the morning. So I'm most productive at work in the morning. And so what I do probably from like 9 to 10 o'clock is send out notes to people that I've recently connected with on LinkedIn, or a professor said, hey, this would be a really great connection. And so I have, after a couple emails, you'll have your way of doing this. So you'll have your pitch, you'll have your template, and you kind of just change the name or the company and the specific ask, but you kind of get into a groove, and you put out maybe, say, 5 connections a day for the next couple of weeks, and see what comes back. Just you put out a big net, and don't get emotional in hoping that one specific person reaches out. You just never know what's going on the other end. So just sending out notes and seeing what comes back, because you'll be pretty surprised. I've sent out notes that 3 months later I've gotten the most incredible response from. So it's all about just
You want to finish that thought, Mary Kate?
Stand off for a second. I would say over the past 8 years working with the MSB students, the students that are most successful usually give themselves weekly goals, because it's really hard to break it down daily, and sometimes a month just you drag it on way too long. So if you give yourself a weekly goal of X number of connections, I like to recommend reaching out to at least 10 people a week on LinkedIn, because not everybody will respond. So you're going to get some hits, some misses. But in whatever way you do that, it could be through you reached out to 10 people on LinkedIn, or you made sure to reach out to a professor and have a cup of coffee, and you connected with, 9 other people in other ways. So you can get flexible with yourself to keep it interesting, keep it fun, because you're right, Stu, it gets to be a drag when you're on the computer all the time, just sending message after message after message. So mix it up a bit. I will say in our class in the fall, I'll share with you an Excel tracking template, basically, that you could use to track all of your connections, give yourself weekly goals, monthly goals, yearly goals, 5-year goals, and what you need to do to get there. We're going to go through a gap analysis. So I think the networking piece fits well into that. So you have me as your career coach to keep you on track, and as much as you need me. And if you're the kind of person who's self-motivated, go for it. Give yourself the goals the way that it's going to work for you. But I found the weekly goals are most motivating and keep you on track.
Good, thanks.
Yeah.
I had a question. You guys have talked a lot about like going out for a coffee, and especially now, like, I don't know many Starbucks that are open. I know a lot of the local coffee shops also are not open, especially to sit down at. Would you guys recommend, I know we have like Thirsty Thursdays at Pint. I don't know, like, obviously like a lot more of them are remote and stuff, but like if we do want that physical face-to-face, would you recommend going to a bar and just getting like a soda water or something like that, to make these, like, rather than coffee shop connections? Or where would you suggest?
Yeah, I can hop in, and I think it does depend on, CDC guidelines for DC and what's open or not, but there are restaurants and places that are open with outdoor seating. So when we say coffee shops, I guess to clarify, it doesn't have to be coffee. It doesn't have to be like specifically that type of environment, as long as it's an environment that's easy for both of you to meet at, central location in a way, if you're physically located apart. I think you will be able to meet with people one-on-one in person in DC like that, outdoors. So it could be anywhere. And yes, I guess I recommend doing a soda water, but a lot of times if it's in the evening in a happy hour kind of environment, you can get a drink, and that's okay, and the other person might get it as well. So as long as you remain professional, you don't overdrink, it's whatever you're most comfortable with in that situation. Don't feel like you have to, but if you want to, you probably could. If it's during the day, you won't get alcohol. Yes.
Restaurants and such are open now.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I assume Starbucks is, so they may have some limits on how many people can be there.
Right.
But sometimes it gets pretty hot here. You can still go inside and meet people.
Yes. I will say though, you might push for some more virtual coffee meetings in addition to asking for in-person. Be flexible, because I know that some employers are being really restrictive, and they want to be mindful of who they're exposing themselves to if they're going into the workplace physically. So you can definitely do a virtual coffee chat with somebody, have your cup of coffee, and do the one-on-one face-to-face through Zoom. But you're right, Stu, like there are places that are physically open. It doesn't have to be a coffee shop, as long as it's a mutual agreed upon location.
Good.
And can I just ask like one more question going off of that, which just like sort of popped up in my mind, was like, how does the bill work? Like, do you pay for their drink, or what goes on?
Really great question. And I should have mentioned this in our informational interviewing one on Monday. If you are asking the person to meet with you and take time out of their schedule, you pay. So that's like the standard rule. Someone may come in and not let you pay, and you know, that's fine too. You just be respectful. If they really want to pay for themselves, totally go for it. Sometimes they'll even say, oh no, I'm happy to do this. I'm happy to put this on the company card. Like, that's fine. But make sure you are offering to pay and you assume that you are paying for the informational interview. For a job interview, if you are asked to go somewhere like where you get a coffee or something and it's a job interview you've been asked to go to, they will pay. So you can assume that you won't pay for your coffee or your meal. That's the difference. Stu, do you have anything to add for that?
No, that's great advice. Always offer. Most of the time they're going to pick up the tab, particularly if it's coffee or a couple of beers or something. But that's exactly the right advice.
Good question.
Thank you, both of you. Thanks.
I have a couple of questions for all of you guys, so whoever wants to jump in on any of them is totally fine. First one, really straightforward and kind of stupid, but I don't know the answer. So for a couple of job postings that I'm seeing, they're saying full-time internship. In my mind, an internship is part-time, but they say full-time. What does that mean, like in the industry? Like, what is that connotation?
I would say that some full-time internships can be the 40-hour work week, but part-time work typically is maxed at 19 hours per week. So that internship might be 25 to 30 hours a week. So it doesn't hurt to ask because your schedule really allows you to work longer than the typical intern,
Right.
because you have that 9 to 1 and then all day Friday. So definitely, reach out and say, I'm in this program that is tailored around internships. I am more available than I am more, you're pretty close to full time.
Right. Okay, cool. Second question, in regards to, you kind of went over this, Dan, where you find, say, like a company that you're interested in interning with or whatever, and you have 3 connections or like 3 people who are alumni of Catholic or whatever, you have something in common. If there really isn't anything else connecting you guys, do you have a recommendation on which one of them you connect with first? Like, should you go for the person who is like similar in age to you and like they're also doing an internship type position, or should you go for the person who has like the most credentials and is like the CEO of the company? Extreme, but you know what I mean.
That's a great question. You're asking if they're all CUA alumni, how to decipher which one might be the most beneficial?
Yeah, or if there's just like, there's not really that many things connecting you to any of them, like how do you then prioritize?
Yeah. So I kind of like to be a little Sherlock Holmes on LinkedIn, and you can look at each of their profiles and figure out who might be the most responsive. So there's a couple key indicators to see that someone might not respond. One is if their profile is just not complete. If there's no picture, if it just has the company and it says they've worked there for like 1,000 years, that person probably just made a LinkedIn 10, 15 years ago and just didn't touch it again.
Gotcha.
If someone has a lot of connections, they probably would be a good person to try, because they're active on LinkedIn, especially if you see on their profile that they're posting, liking other people's things, they're sharing things. That's a good indicator. Also, in people's summaries, if you go down to show more on the summary, some people will say open to connections and conversations. So that's like the biggest flag to say, this is the person that I need to reach out to. But if there's 3 people and 2 people look like they have active LinkedIns, you could reach out to both. I don't think that would hurt you. And worst case is that the hiring manager hears your name twice, and that's a good thing.
True. Okay, fair enough. And then last question, and I'm kind of just seeing this on Handshake mostly, if there's a position that you're interested in, but it says it's unpaid, I think is very unfair, but regardless, is there a professional way to kind of apply for it and then insinuate that you would like to be paid for the work that you're doing, or should you kind of just respect like, okay, it's unpaid, I'll move on?
Good question. It's really tricky. I know that paid is preferable. I mean, I like to get paid as well. Um, Sometimes you can negotiate a stipend, especially in these nonprofits. They just don't have a budget line for hourly work, but sometimes it could be a stipend or a travel reimbursement. Mary Kate, do you want to touch on more of this?
Yeah, Dan, I think those are the two areas where you might have room to ask, but you don't usually have room to ask for it to be fully paid. They indicated unpaid for a reason. They know they're not going to get as many applicants or as much interest because they're putting that out there, but that's just them being upfront with them not having a budget for it. Typically, it's the nonprofits might be more so that industry or that type of work that will post unpaid opportunities. So if you're super passionate about it, use the networking piece or the informational interview piece to kind of figure out if there's wiggle room. Apply if you want to go through the interview process, but I just know that there's usually very little room to get a full paid opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Okay. Thank you, guys.
The only thing I would add to that is if this could be the perfect opportunity for you, you didn't hear that, Chris. But if this is suddenly wow, this is a company, an organization I've always wanted to work for, maybe you have to take the long-term view and try to suck it up and do it for no pay. Mm-hmm. So that's the only proviso there. If it's just, wow, I did find the perfect thing here.
Right. Okay. Thank you, guys.
I had a question for just the administration in general about the COVID situation, just really quick.
Sure.
With that. I was really concerned when I saw an email from the president that he was going to require all students that were going to live on campus to provide a negative result. Mm-hmm. And then students living off campus didn't have to do the test. But a lot of those students, like third years, fourth years, and including us, who live off campus, some might live with people, they might be doing other stuff and they might get it. And then when they come into the classroom, they might infect others. Would it be wise to recommend for the school to require everyone to take the test before coming in?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sure they've discussed that in the administration. They've got a number of committees working on really every aspect of how to safely reopen. For some reason, they've decided not to require that. It doesn't mean you can't get that test and ensure that you're coming in without having been exposed. As I think I've mentioned before, likelihood is somebody is going to come in contact with somebody. We've got contact tracers and things like that. That's why we've invested in the technology to live stream all of the classes. So if, say, Andre, you had a roommate that was exposed and you felt like you needed to self-isolate for a couple of weeks, you can still attend class on a synchronous basis, live along with your other teammates. And so we're prepared for that eventuality.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Sure.
I had another question about remote internships versus in-person internships. So I know I've spoke to a couple people about I'm really for remote internships, but do you think that there's a different benefit of having a physical in-person internship versus having a remote internship? I know these times are really unprecedented, so it's really just stipulation, but if you know from experience or have any thoughts, I'm interested in listening.
Yeah, I can.
Oh, go ahead, Dan.
I can kind of speak to it from my own personal experience. I worked at Catholic on campus in the office for a couple of years. And then for the past 2 years, I've worked remote. for the team. And I will say the big difference is when you're in the office, the benefit is kind of those one-off meetings that just organically happen. So just you're walking past the office and says, hey, I've been working on this project. Do you have any ideas for me? And that kind of collaborative energy happens in the office. That being said, remote work has really changed since COVID. So when I was remote, everyone else was in the office kind of doing the collaborative energy in the office. But now that everyone's remote, everyone's figuring out how to just get on the phone with someone or send a text and say, hey, let's get on Zoom and collaborate. So because of this, I think it's really beneficial for the workforce in general because it's forced everyone to have that collaborative energy either remote or in office. So the change has gone away, in my personal opinion.
That's a really good point, Dan. I saw a survey not long ago that something like 85% of small and medium businesses have said they expect to come back as strong or stronger than they were before because they've learned new ways of doing things. I apologize if I said this before, but it's kind of one of my favorite things now, and I'm kind of following them. Everybody thinks that the cruise line business is dead in the water, pun intended. I think they're going to come back big time because there's a lot of pent-up demand, and they'll figure out what they need to do, just as we are at the university, to make it safe. So, hey, if you want to book a ticket, you need to show, in that case, you need to show up with a negative test within the last week or so. And we're going to have special places on the ship, et cetera, et cetera. So everybody's figuring out how to deal with this and sometimes finding things that are better ways of delivering services and products. So I think Carly Fiorina, who sometimes speaks to the class, said something interesting once. She said, change is always going